Hey guys, I'm Mark. Welcome back to the shop. This video is going to be a quick and dirty rundown of the horror story that I had when dealing with my first CO2 laser that failed. If you're in the market for a tool like this, hopefully this will give you some things to look out for while you're shopping around and trying to buy one. I have since upgraded my machine. I've got a new 100-watt machine from Trotec, and I absolutely love it. I just posted another video. It's kind of like a two-parter here. So check the link in the description and go watch that one too if you haven't already. Anyway, let's get to the sad story. So, how about we go through my laser buying experience, and I'll try to give you a few points about what you should do if you're looking to get into something like this. First of all, I recommend the Trotec. I'm a big fan. But more than anything, you need to do your own research, and you need to do it thoroughly, and you need to know where your support's going to come from. So as quick as I can, here is how I bought my first laser. A bunch of friends recommended, suggested I get one. First and foremost, they said, this is something that maybe you should think about doing with your business, and I agreed. And I said, where should I look for a laser? I don't know anything about them. They did a little research, I did a little research, and the one I landed on looked great. I did not have good feelings about the salesman I was dealing with, but I pushed through anyway because I was committed to it. This is what was going to happen. This is what I needed. That was mistake number one. Do your own thorough research. As I've come to find out, there's nothing wrong with that company. There was nothing wrong with the direction I went with it. I know one other person pretty well who bought the exact same machine within a week of me buying it. He's still using it. He loves it. I know of a company about an hour's drive from here that has, I believe they said 11 of that exact machine, and they run them all day long, just cutting out puzzles. That's their whole business, is cutting out puzzles on that machine. My problem is I had a defective machine. The thing worked amazing. It was awesome, it had great power, it had great detail, and it worked for 1 month. And then the power started to fall away, and I had to crank up the settings to accommodate for less power being output by the machine. After fighting with it for long enough, I contacted customer service, and they spent a month back and forth through text and email and phone calls. Hey, check this. Hey, check that. Hey, check this. Hey, check that. Are your mirrors dirty? I was asked, are my mirrors dirty and are my mirrors aligned, no less than 100 times. They finally decided it had to be a bad tube, so they sent me a new tube, hooked it up, everything worked again. Maybe not quite as well as it did the first time, but after a month of use and a month of fighting, now I have a working laser again. The problem came back not quite a year later, and that's advice number 2. When the problem came back, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to go through a month on the phone. So I put it aside and just didn't deal with it. And when I had more time, I called them and I went through the same process again, but they fought me because my 1-year warranty had expired. I said, it hasn't been a year since the tube broke. It has been a year since I bought it. So stick with me on this. And they're like, fine. Are your mirrors clean? Are they aligned? I fought and fought and fought. At that point, parts, time, adjust this, check that, adjust this, check that. I ended up 6 months of my own hands-on time plugged into that machine, and it was just miserable. It was just miserable, and the customer service didn't believe me half the time, didn't want to deal with me half the time, and the single worst part of the whole experience is when I had had enough and I said, come pick up your machine. I can't do it. This has cost me time, it's cost me money, come get your machine. And the salesman that I bought it from, who I never felt great about in the first place, said, he yelled at me for 10 minutes. He yelled at me and said I'm ungrateful, and said that they had the best customer service in the industry, and said that I didn't spend enough money with them for them to waste this much time with me. What? I spent $11,500, which was a huge stretch for me and my business. And that wasn't enough money for them to make sure that that machine worked. I finally threatened to tell everybody about this whole story. And they said, okay, we'll send you a technician. They sent a technician who they were sure was just going to align the mirrors and fix the whole problem. If you guys are watching, technicians, and I'm specifically not saying companies' names and I'm not saying people's names on purpose, but those guys were amazing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew what I needed. They understood why I needed it. Every time they said, hey, I think we did this, I said, but what about this? And they went, you're right, let's look into that. After 4 days on site, going back and forth with this technician, the mothership, the main office finally said, yeah, that's as good as it can get. You should come home now so we can stop paying your salary to be over there. So they left without fixing the problem. It was better, but it wasn't the same as it was on day one when it worked great. So at that point I felt at least it's good enough. I can sell this at a severely discounted rate, and that's what I did. I sold it, it was gone. In the meantime, I went to a woodworking trade show down in Atlanta, and I walked from booth to booth to booth to booth to booth. Every single laser company that was on site, I told them this story, asked them about their products, and tried to see if somebody wanted to work with me to bail me out. Enter Trotec. They hated the story. They loved their product, and I do too. And through one-on-one interpersonal talking with a bunch of different brands, I definitely talked to several other companies. I ended up going with Trotec. Now the point of that is, do your research. Talk to people. Get the warm, fuzzy feelings in your tummy so that you trust the product that you're buying. The first one I bought, I just trusted that it would be right, and it never was right, and I never had the warm, fuzzy feelings from the company that they were going to help me out. Trotec, a whole different story. Huge fan, great product. I know the people personally. They've been there, they've helped me, they've trained me. But the most important part is I now know where the service is going to come from. I know the exact people who are going to talk me through a problem on the phone if one ever comes up, or who are going to show up at my house to help me through a problem if one ever comes up. So this is just me ranting. I thought I was going to be giving you tips and pointers on how to buy a large format laser like this. So tip number 1, I recommend Trotec. Tip number 2, do your research, talk to the people, ask them intelligent questions, and make sure you get the warm, fuzzy feelings from them. And number 3, know where your service is going to come from. I assumed the first company was going to stand behind the product. Clearly they didn't want to. Trotec wants to. Trotec wants me to be happy. They've told me that time and time again. So I'm going to wave their flag for a while. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. That is also an excuse as to why my channel has suffered so much lately, because I have been so preoccupied with this other nonsense that I'm having a heck of a time getting content put out. So I have a goal. I have a plan. I have a roadmap to put a lot more content out this year and to actually get some products out this year. So hopefully I can actually make that happen. And if anybody is still actually listening to me at this point, thanks for sticking around. We will see you soon.